Hey guys, number one Marmaduke fan here, and this is my series of me yelling at newspapers and magazines. So I don't pay money for this kind of stuff anymore, but so many of these are so ubiquitous that it's sort of like they just sort of magically appear in your house. Like someone sent it to you and you don't even know why they sent it to you. You don't get the subscription, or it was just at the library in the free box next to the comics, so whatever, you grab it. Uh, I, I, I feel like we've kind of reached a point where we're at peak, anti SJW. We're long past peak anti SJW YouTube. It's kind of become a meme that people have an anti SJW YouTube channel. They have a cartoon character with their arms crossed, making a firm expression, and then it's like in defense of Star Wars: The Original Trilogy or something. And I think people are just sick of the SJW anti SJW genre of YouTubeisms, and so I kind of like made a conscious effort. I started my channel wanting to talk about social justice politics because it impacted me so much, and then I kind of like realized I'm not getting anywhere with this, and I kind of made a conscious effort to talk about fun stuff that made me happy. And I guess the theme of this video is, yeah, it's kind of pointless to whinge about SJWs on YouTube, but this problem isn't going away because it's ubiquitous. You can't sit down and read about a few like TV shows or plays without time for some social justice, kids. Hope you had your weed this morning. And so, because of that, we're stuck with it. We're stuck talking about the annoying thing forever until the left uh, modernizes itself. So I was raised in like a conservative red state. I saw the right do this. I saw libertarianism become a more popular idea for most people on the right. I saw the fundamentalism of the 90s and, fear and hatred of Dungeons and Dragons and Harry Potter kind of gradually become like more interest in the culture. I think right-wing Christians, as a general rule, are much more interested in being challenged and experiencing the arts and kind of embracing the arts and engaging with the arts, because they've sort of seen how not engaging with the arts led to the collapse of Christian culture. And that's for another video. I think the left needs to have an awakening moment like that before there can be any kind of like fruitful conversation about politics and the arts again. So, whole theme of this video is that the problem for the contemporary left is it's everywhere, and really obvious questions don't come up. So let the record show. Ava DuVernay has written. She's directed a new series, When They See Us, which is about these 5 kids that she believes were wrongfully accused of rape. These kids were eventually, the convictions were vacated in 2002 when a serial rapist confessed to the crime and there was new DNA evidence. Okay, so you've got a lot of great drama here from the real world for a TV series. Kids who are innocent accused of rape without evidence. So what is the connection that DuVernay makes to the contemporary life? She filmed this last fall as Dr. Christine Blasey Ford recounted her allegations against now Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh to the Senate Judiciary Committee. The resonance, the debate over which boys get to be boys, was not lost on the director. What kind of boys truly get to be young and carefree, and what others are indicted on sight? DuVernay asks. Whoa. So, in context, what this means is that DuVernay doesn't like it that Brett Kavanaugh got to be boys would be boys, and he got to be young and carefree. That means that she's saying being young and carefree, being boys will be boys, is about raping women and sexually assaulting women. There's nothing young and carefree about sexually assaulting someone, DuVernay. And actually, the resonance for the Kavanaugh situation that should occur to anyone who's asking a question is, gee, maybe we shouldn't convict people in a court of law and convict people in the court of public opinion based on scant evidence. Maybe before we assume that the 5 black boys are guilty of rape, maybe we need to see some hard evidence beyond just insinuations or circumstantial evidence. Maybe we need like multiple like the Bible says, multiple eyewitness testimony. How about some of that to protect these innocent black boys and protect innocent people in general from false accusations? So yeah, that's the point. She sort of misses the whole point of why Brett Kavanaugh would actually be an interesting allegory for this thing, because it's actually about intersectionalism for her. It's not about due process. It's not about innocence versus guilty. It's about how racism must have been the underlying factor, where Brett Kavanaugh was white, therefore he's okay. The kids are black, therefore they're guilty. And that's not a substantive message. A substantive message is due process applies to everyone. You have to take it seriously, even if he's a Trump appointee. This is the real article, the next act, and it's all about revolutionary politics on Broadway. So not just in like the weird kind of edgy hippie, like off-Broadway theater scene, but on Broadway, radical politics are creeping their way in, is the theme of this. And, you know, diversity, intersectionalism, all that great stuff. So some of these I'd read before because I like to read about New York theater. Hillary and Clinton, a biopic about Hillary. And says, what's his name? Who's the guy who wrote Hillary and Clinton? Lucas Hnath. I'm writing a play about the Clintons, but I'm also using them as these kind of mythic figures that offer an occasion to think about how we see people in power, how we read people in a marriage, and how we expect different things from a woman running for president than we expect from a man. So my question, Hnath, is did you ever see that clip going around of a university that performed the debate between Hillary and Trump, but they cast Trump as a woman and Hillary as a guy? Did you notice how like the right immediately resonated with that, and we thought that female Trump was like the coolest thing ever, and she was really commanding and in charge and on task? That'd be interesting. Could we mix in a little bit of that into Hillary and Clinton? I don't know. Trump beating Hillary is the biggest David and Goliath story of the century. I couldn't believe it. I thought he was a loser. I hated his guts. I was mentally prepared for President Hillary Clinton and the policies that would come with that. No one could believe it when that poll switched. Like it was like 80% Hillary, 20% Trump. Ew, and then it just switches. That was an amazing story. And I don't care how upset you are about the results. There's a story in there that hasn't been tapped into yet. So that's like that's the most inoffensive thing in the entire thing. Look, a straight white male who writes offbeat but excessive narrative plays. So, article writer, why should I care about Lucas Hnath being a straight white male? Well, because now we're going to talk about all the diverse new radical plays, and the racial identity, sexual identity lens is important to all of them. So, I gotta control the tangents. My whole point is this is ubiquitous. I don't need to talk about all of these at length. The point is that it's inescapable. You keep seeing it over and over and over again. Gary, a sequel to Titus Andronicus. Oh, that gory Shakespeare play? A kind of American vaudeville of the Elizabethan idea of the Roman Empire that uses the carnage in Shakespeare's goriest play as a metaphor for the ruin left in the wake of Trump's ascension. They can't get over 2016. They can't get it out of their bloodstream. After the election, people said, oh, we have to take our work to Indiana. We have to take our work to Oklahoma. We can't just exist in our New York bubble. And I said, no, we have to do our work on Broadway because Indiana and Oklahoma come to Broadway. Well, not if they know if they're going to be a bunch of swinging dicks and Trump metaphors in your William Shakespeare sequel, dude. Reaching the people. So why make a anti-Trump metaphor to a sequel to Titus Andronicus? Boy, there's so much power in Shakespeare. There's so much room in Shakespeare to talk about contemporary issues. But Shakespeare was able to do that because he actually cared about human dramas. I don't look at a single Shakespeare play and say this is a pro-Republican play or a pro-Democrat Shakespeare play. All of Shakespeare's plays are about underlying fundamental human values. I don't think he had it in him to write an anti-Trump metaphor. Like, if you told Shakespeare about Trump, I don't know, he'd probably write like a really interesting human drama about the guy and make him like a really interesting tragic hero, because he wouldn't care about whatever Trump's politics were or his policies were. He'd be interested in like the big decisions that kind of drive people. Everyone should read Shakespeare. I've only read like half of Shakespeare's plays. I haven't read Titus Andronicus. I gotta fix that. Oklahoma, the classic musical. Well, we've got to like change it up and make it sexy. again. So the new version suggests that the brashness, violence, and suspicion of the other that flavor the post-2016 era have been baked into the American pie since the beginning. So we haven't just been racist since 2016. America's been racist for, well, actually, the only thing I'd add to this is this hasn't been baked into the American pie. Racism is baked into the human pie. It's the normal state of human affairs for thousands of years before America that we were racist to each other. What's significant about America is that we're the first nation in civilized history to actually have a culture where diverse races and belief systems coexist without murdering one another. So I don't care. I don't care about your deconstruction of America because I don't believe you have enough context to interpret the significance of America, not just within the last 200 years, but not even within the last 2,000 years. America is significant within when looked at compared to every nation within like over 10,000 years of human history. I just don't care. If the goal is to reach people, I don't trust you to give me a meaningful story about racism in the post-2016 era because I think you're not looking for the real human drives and decisions and the goods and evils that make these stories have meaning. I think you're looking for a trite, immediate thumb in the nose of Trump supporters in the audience. Therefore, you can't communicate to me because you've sort of decided from the beginning you're not going to communicate to me. A redo of Hadestown. Okay, so Hadestown is a retelling of the Orpheus and Eurydice myth in the Twilight Depression era New Orleans, turning Hades into a charismatic demagogue who in a song called Why We Build the Wall sings, because we have and they have not, because they want what we have got. That's subtle. How about a story about a guy who wants to build a wall to protect people from drug cartels that are raping little Mexican girls? How about a guy who wants to go after those kind of people? Can we tell a story about that? And how maybe it's not as easy or black and white as you think it is to go after drug cartels. Maybe they're a more complicated issue than you initially think of. No, we can't have that. We got to have anti-wall and let's take Marxist language and let's have the right-wing Trump figure say, I am bourgeois, you are proletariat, proletariat bad. That's not how life works. That's not how... oh, is that it? Oh, yeah, there's more of it. Did I forget to mark it? Yeah, but I think I remember the page. So this is like the last little things shoved on at the end. Sanctuary City. It's about a girl who marries a guy who's illegal. Okay, maybe there's some potential in that for a good old story. Jeremy O. Harris, author of Slave Play and Daddy. I actually like Jeremy Harris's quote because maybe he's saying, I don't want to be judged just because I'm black. Maybe I just want people to like be normal and not care if black authors are on Broadway or not. So he says, we'll know if it's really changed if in 5 years nobody blinks an eye if there's an entire season of just black writers at a major New York theater. So there's a couple ways to interpret this quote from Harris. Way number one is it's sort of like this is a fluff piece about diversity. Harris doesn't want to be a diversity hire. So he's saying, maybe I'll just be one of the 5 black authors on Broadway one day and that'll just be normal. Okay, I'm with you there. Or maybe Harris is saying no one should blink an eye when there are 5 black writers on Broadway, but we should definitely blink an eye if there are 5 white writers on Broadway. So if Harris is saying we need to replace white writers with black writers, I'm not with Harris. If Harris is saying just judge my art and don't blink an eye about the race of the people who are writing Broadway plays, then I'm with Harris. There's a little bit of vagary to this that isn't brought out in a we're so diverse on Broadway kind of fluff piece. Alicia Harris wrote Is God Is, a spaghetti western. I want to chase those things from my own vernacular, my own sensibilities, my own point of view of the world, my own personality as a young black woman. How do I make the conversation all about women like me? I think you should express your own point of view, bring your point of view of the world to your story, bring your own personality to your work, but I don't think you can reduce your personality or your point of view to people who look like you and you being a young black woman. I think there's more to you as an individual soul than those superficial traits. I think this is the worst one. Jackie Sibley's Drury. So he's written Mary's Scarole, a time and continent-hopping look at the tradition of African-American women as caregivers seen through the prism of the real-life story of a Jamaican-British nurse in the Crimean War. While Drury is delighted at the attention she and her peers have been receiving, she has some qualms. All of us are still in a lot of ways writing for white spaces, she says. I wonder what the world would be if it wasn't an inherent part of creating theater right now. That dilemma is the very heart of Drury's Fair Review, a brilliant, audacious deconstruction of the soul-warping power of the white gaze. So it's what's this one called? I'm not going to see it because this sounds so boring. Fair Review. So Fair Review, the play starts as a traditional family comedy, but soon veers into uncharted territory, ending with a poignant and harrowing monologue by the family's youngest daughter, during which she addresses all the white members of the audience in a way that shatters any illusions about living in a post-racial America. I hope the show has an expiration date because of that, Drury says. I hope that it becomes unperformable soon because it will seem incredibly dated and that the audience will be so diverse that the gesture at the end of the play doesn't make any sense. That would be pretty cool. Drury, I've got news for you. In 2019, casual bigotry towards white people is already very dated. Mission accomplished. Your play is dated. Earlier, the key quote I saw earlier was, it's about reaching people. Who's going to be reached? Now, this two different people, so I should be careful about that. Someone else said it's about reaching people. Who's going to be reached by paying $60 to $200 to go to a Broadway show where they're going to be lectured on the basis of their skin color because they're white and white people go to Broadway plays? Of course you have to write for your audience, Drury, that you're doing Broadway. If the primary people going to Broadway are white, you actually shouldn't think about whether they're white or not. You should think about making art that speaks to them in a meaningful way and lecturing them based on their skin color. What's meaningful about that? What am I supposed to take away from that other than that you see my skin color when you see me, that you're fixated on skin color, that is what guides your worldview and everything you want to accomplish in your art? Why would anyone want to pay $200 to be lectured that way? It's pathetic, and it's so sing-songy, Vogue-y. Like, look at Vogue. Vogue is a capitalist megastore. Look at all the male gaze. Look at all the heteronormativity and feminine women, beautiful women, coded for the patriarchy. It doesn't make sense for Vogue to do that. And what the two and two I finally put together last year is that they don't care about consistency. It doesn't matter to the writers and editors of Vogue that the implications of the social justice worldview would mean you can't publish something like Vogue because Vogue is immoral. It's advancing the male gaze. It's advancing patriarchy. It's an enemy of body diversity. It's reinforcing notions of beauty which hurt women. But they don't care because normie... No, they're not normie Democrats. A normie Democrat would be someone like J. Michael Straczynski. He wrote Spider-Man comics, Superman comics. He wrote Babylon 5. I've been loving Babylon 5. Babylon 5 was like a normie Democrat show in 1990, where some of the bad guys were kind of vaguely right-wing, right? And some of those are the most annoying episodes. But because he was a normie Democrat, most of the themes in Babylon 5 now look like conservative propaganda in 2019, whereas in 1990 they were meant to be kind of like a general centrist Democrat, like watch out for bad Nazis kind of a message. The Democrat Party has changed. There are no normie Democrats anymore. The normie position of Vogue is, isn't it cool that someone wrote a play complaining about how she has to talk to white spaces and then have her actor lecture the audience based on the presumed race of the audience members? and she hopes that one day there will be so few white people going to Broadway that it won't make sense for actors to attack and ridicule and lecture white people in the audience. Go to hell, Broadway.